Good morning and welcome to another edition of Q&A with Alan and Marshall. And today it's Alan and Marshall and Richard. And today is all going to be about scary stories. And it's going to be, I can't wait. It's going to be such a fun show. And Richard has a lot of stories, so that's why he's on here today. But what we want more than anything is for you guys to share what's going on with you or some story in your history. And we have kind of some topics that we want to get to. So please, first off, let us know that you're here. Say hello, where you're watching from. And when we get into the meat of the show today, we want you to share your take and your stories and that kind of stuff. So first off, so how are you today, Alan and Richard? How are you guys doing?
My week has been great. I have been busy. I've been out of town most of the week. And so it's been a good week. It's getting colder up here in Michigan, but it tends to happen this time of the year. It's been a good week. I mean, there are still printers are printing. There are people buying equipment. I'm excited for the industry right now, considering what's happened this year. It's
right.
Very positive. So yeah, I'm excited about the show. We all have stories, and it's like, but I want to hear the horror stories from everybody listening, and I want to hear how they fixed them too, or what did they learn?
Right.
If we didn't learn anything, doesn't matter. So
Richard, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing terrific. In fact, you guys called me and said, "Hey, can you be on the show?" I'm literally packing my car to go on a 1-week trip or on an install trip. Yep. Installing some equipment and getting a fresh new factory ready.
Great. Where is that?
It's in Cleveland.
Oh, great.
So it's a 3-hour drive, easily done.
Cool.
Good company. I'm excited. I might have to whip over there. I'm going to be on the west side of Ohio for a day and supposed to go into Indiana, but I might have to change it and whip over there and visit with you guys, Richard. So
well, I'm jealous. I'm in Arizona. I can't make it.
Hey, but it looks like in a couple of weeks we're going to be together.
45 degrees is the high temperature for the week.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's like 70s here. It's like awesome.
Cool.
So, hey, we got some people. We'll say hello. Kim's here. Hey, guys. Okay. Yosef. Hey, y'all. Cindy's here. Good morning. And Kisa stocking the trailer for a game tonight. You rock, girl.
Way to go, Kisa.
Keep it going. So, you ready to get into some goodness?
Well, maybe we should first, Marshall. What are you drinking right now? What cup are you using?
Well, as a matter of fact, I've got some coffee with our mugs from our pal Sean, and thank you so much.
Yep, really North Georgia promotion.
You're totally right about the coffee mug being hot here on my fingers. So,
I like it though. It's nice. Heavy. If it would hold more, it'd be great, but it's a heavy one. I like it.
Thank you so much for your thoughtfulness. We appreciate that.
Very much. Thank you. So,
and Cora says, 3 of my favorite guys. Hello from Centuria. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike says, good morning to 3 legends. We should do the 3 amigos thing. All right, cool. So let's get into some topics. And here's the one to start, which is, what is your favorite industry horror story? So who wants to go first?
No holding back on this one. So everybody listening, you got to share.
We want your story. What's your favorite horror story for the industry? Not some crazy thing that happened to you on vacation, but your industry horror story.
I'll start. So mine is always going to be mostly supplier related. And early in my career, this is something, everybody's had this where you try to do the right thing, help someone out, and then it ends up snowballing into, oh my God, what am I into? You're in there hiding with the guy with a chainsaw.
Right.
We're getting feedback. Who is that?
Richard, you got something running?
It's my phone. Sorry.
Yeah. Here's a horror story.
Yeah.
Weird sounds.
The horror story was the first podcast we ever did here, and I couldn't log on.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's early in my career. I want to say 89, 90, something like that. and this shop is supposed to order an automatic. They have this monster contract job they just got. It's why they're ordering it. The machine's not going to be there in time. God forbid they farm it out. So back in the day, an older company called Harco Graphics had an oval. And Richard remembers this. I don't know if you do. And it was okay. Not great. They had some issues with it. But the company I worked for was a Harco dealer at the time. So it had to be in the late 80s. And they send an oval in, no charge, for them to use ahead of time. And they said if it works, they'll buy it. So they do. Comes in. It is a nightmare. There's no chiller they don't have. The people said, yeah, we're all set on the specs. You know, we're trying to do this last minute. It is not working. There is problems. It's like we can't get it registered. The prints look awful. The job is like due in 2 days. It was just one of those as a young sales guy, and I'm probably 21, 22 at the time. I'm like, what have I done? I'm going to get myself fired from this. This customer is going to go insane. And they were. So I try to do the right thing. They're not going to make it. They know it. I contact one of my other accounts that I just sold an automatic. For those of you that are newer, automatics were not that common back then. And he says, I can take the job. Let's go. Up there with films, exposed screens. He bangs them out. Customer says, thank you, sends it to the customer. Customer's not happy with how they look. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The company I work for did the right thing. We'll have them reprinted and all of that. And it ended up okay. But here's the lesson I learned. You have a monster job and you want to try something new and you wait to the last minute, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't do that, because you're going to have some young supply rep that's going to try to help you out and do the right thing. And it's just, it just bowled me over. It was awful.
Right.
It was awful. So that's the one that came right to mind for me, aside from supplier questions, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. Yeah. So Richard, I know you have more than one. So what's your favorite industry horror story?
Well, the ones that I have, the big three are the ones where I'm actually at fault. So those are always wonderful to tell. But how did you learn about that? Well, yeah. Let me tell you that story. It was very painful.
What is the quote? Wisdom is bad experience, or I forget what it is.
Everything, when you don't get what you want, you get experience. Oscar Wilde.
Right, right.
So I'm new in the screen printing business. I work for a flag company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Marshall, you lived there for a while. We lived literally a mile from each other or whatever at way different times. But I'm learning about color. I'm learning about color matching, and I'm a wizard at making blacks and browns out of all the scrap colors, because I'm one of those guys that wants to try and squeeze every nickel out of every bit of ink. So Summerfest comes up. It's a nice, beautiful Schlitz brown, and I'll make this ink. It's for about 200 flags. So I take the blue from that job and the green from the fish job and the yellow from this other job and the black, and I mix them all together, and I'm telling you, the color was perfect. We print them on yellow flags. They're bigger than a bedspread, so they're big flags. They're going to hang from the light poles on Wisconsin Avenue in downtown Wisconsin, and it's going to be a big deal. They're flags, so we have to make them ourselves in the flag sewing thing. So you have to do hemming and all that, and we print them and then they hem and sew them. But I'm so proud. I want to be there when they get delivered. And there's a couple of big wigs from Summerfest are there in the city of Milwaukee. And so I'm real proud to show off how beautiful it looks. We open up a box, pull it out, look at it in the lobby of the showroom. This looks terrific. I just throw it on the back of the box, and we start to carry them outside to the pickup truck that's waiting. As soon as we get outside in the sunlight, there's the green fluorescent ink from the fish job. The brown turns iridescent green, and everyone now sees it. And of course, these are flags. They have to be outside in the UV sunlight. We now have 3 days before Summerfest actually starts. And I scramble. I said, we're going to have to take care of this. And I have to call in my friends. We're printing around the clock. We have to find new yellow fabric. Everything has to be done. And we're literally delivering them a few boxes at a time to the cranes that are hanging them up, trying to keep up and feeding the cranes. It was the worst mistake I have ever made in my entire life.
For people that don't know, I was just up in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago for the first time on a business trip. And Summerfest is huge. There was a client I was with, and they're already working with Summerfest for next year.
Yeah, I printed 8 gazillion Summerfest jobs when I worked in visual impressions. So yeah, I know all about that. So we're going to get to some comments in a minute, but I want to share mine. And of course, I've had plenty of I did the art wrong or I printed the job wrong stories. But the one that I want to share is from a speaker level. So I can't remember what year it was, but it was SGIA. I was giving a presentation. So I'm all signed up. It's all about sustainability. And like we do, there's a lot of hangout time at these conventions when you're fixing to do a presentation. So I'm going over my notes. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. And what am I doing? I'm drinking a god-awful amount of coffee because what else are you going to do with these things, right? So I go use the restroom before the thing, and I come back, and I give my presentation, and it's just fantastic. I nail it, right? And then I go to sit back down, and I was doing this with Marcy Kenter, who we all know, and I sit back down, and that's when I discover, to my shock, that I forgot to zip up my fly.
Oh,
so I had an open fly on my pants the whole time in front of this giant crowd of people. And I don't know if anybody noticed at all, but I was mortified that I made that mistake. And, it was just one of those things, right? So
guys, we've all spoke at seminars at these things. Am I the only one that is like paranoid of that? And before people are there, you're doing the complete check to make sure.
Yeah, well, now I do. Like, it's just kind of a funny thing.
Brutal.
Yeah. So Greg, good morning, Greg, by the way. Wisdom is a harsh mistress. And Cora says, we sent material to Honduras to be made into shirts. We sent a sample to be copied. We got 10,000 shirts back with a cigarette burned in the left chest area. Turns out our shipping guy was smoking and burned the sample shirt. We created a patch as part of the design to cover it up. Definitely didn't make a profit on that one. Imagine some old woman at the end of the line adding a cigarette burn. Oh my God.
That is awful.
Here's the sample. You've got to match.
Yeah. That is brutal.
The favorite industry horror story. That's what we're talking about. So please leave yours. I think Greg's probably got one. Come on, Greg.
Hi, Greg. Lay it out. But everything's on the table right now.
So we've all done this stuff. I remember one order that we did, and it was it was a simple print, front and back kind of a thing, but it was a timely deal, and it got there, and somehow we forgot to print the backs of the shirts.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so and it was not something that was close. We had to overnight the shirts back. We had to print the thing and just, we made it happen, but it was just one of those deals where you do what you're supposed to do and you're all happy because you got it done early and then realize that you only did half the work. So
I'm just reading some of the comments.
All right. Let's get some. None of your good friends pointed out that your zipper was down. Sorry, Cindy, but no.
But if it's another speaker, usually we're not in there and we're in another seminar. So
yeah, right. And Kitson said, left my speaker microphone on during a session switch and visited the men's room. Everybody was smiling when I turned to the seminar room. Apparently, every flush was broadcast to the crowd. Well, that's way better than mine. Oh my God.
That's rough.
Fixin' do a presentation. It's definitely a Southern thing. Will bless your heart. Yeah, I use Fixin', right? And the other thing, Peter, that my wife still gives me crap about is I cut on the light switch.
Cut on?
Well, yeah, that's how I say it. I cut on the light switch. Hey guys, good to see you all. Keep going on. Thanks, Carlos. Eric says embroidery is full of thread tattoos. Some folks are still carrying around needle fragments. Those are the real horror stories. I helped put together a post in a previous position, complete with X-rays.
Oh,
wow! Hey, I want to read that one.
Absolutely.
I want to read that one.
Needle fragments. I would never thought about that. You poor people.
Machines didn't always have those safety features. Well, and hey, plenty of shops take those yellow cords for and they take those off.
Yep.
Right. And I've had printers that they're under the press fixing a pinhole or something, and then the thing indexes and clocks them right in the head.
And some of those older machines, man, they're dangerous. Okay, that brings up another story. I'm working with a graphic printer, a flatbed press, big flatbed press in North Canton, Ohio. If I said the name, Richard would know who it is. And we're doing some ink runs, and the safety switch was off the foot pedal. So the print comes up. I said, hold on, let me check something. And it was one of those big ones. And if you haven't seen, you're in there, and I'm reaching for something. All of a sudden, I heard it engage. And before I could come out, that screen, and I'm doing this because my arm is like in there, and I'm there in that, I get my head out, and that screen and stuff comes down and almost rips my shoulder off. Prints on my arm and everything. It comes off, and what happened was it was a printer's assistant. He was new, and he hit the foot pedal. Now, there was no safety guard on it. We didn't unplug it. That's probably my fault. And on there. He almost lost his job, but I did everything I do to keep my arm from being ripped off. Richard, it was one of those big old M&M medallion ones.
Sure.
Brutal.
Hydraulics.
Yeah.
That's why lockout, tagout programs work.
Yeah. Yep.
Sean thinks we're the Three Stooges guys. So I guess I'm Larry, Alan, you're Mo. That makes Richard Curley, right?
It's on this side.
Yeah. Hot Mike, Terry that do the very thing with two regular guys. That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mike says we printed 10,000 over 24-page catalogs and proof. The pallet was dropped off and said scene printing, saved by 10,000 stickers. Spell check.
Yeah.
Oh. I forget what show it's on, but somebody showed the new Impressions magazine has fleece on the cover with only one E.
Oh, very good.
I haven't gotten mine yet, but somebody got it.
Well, good thing they didn't leave off the L, and that would be feces.
I think Sean showed it. I just don't remember which podcast it was on.
Right. Huh. That's funny. Okay, awesome. So, hey, share your stories. We want to know.
And share what you learned on it. So
yeah. Right.
So guys, on something like Michael's, I mean, that happens a lot. How many times have we done stuff? You proofread it, 10 people proofread it, and there you still find something. It's
right.
brutal.
Right. And I've
got a couple. We did a Mexican flag once, a flag, and it looked perfect. And then after we printed it, I don't know, about 40, they come out, and Pablo at the end of the belt says, "Stop the press." Because the green and the red had been swapped. We didn't know enough. It wasn't official. And so we got some new rules about color prints of examples and stuff like that. The famous Pablo stops the press.
Yeah, well, I had one where we were printing an American flag, and the art department did a typo with the Pantone color for the field blue, where the stars are, and it was purple. and it went all the way through. The client signed off on it. We printed the shirts, right? That everybody just assumed that this client wanted purple for the American flag. It got delivered.
Oh, wow.
Right. And of course they're like, hey, the American flag is purple. It's like, we signed off on it.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, I forget, it was like a really deep purple, like a Crown Royal back purple. And so it's just one of those things where the people not paying attention. And of course, it's on the proof that's signed off on. And of course, the printer, there are production managers. It matches the color. Okay, great. Let's print it. Right. And nobody questioned, hey, should we be printing this American flag in purple ink? Right. And so now it's like, hey, let's just double check this stuff.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, is this right? So Simon says, not a printing horror story, but I was doing a demo on a glue and stretch frame we used to sell. Had about 50 peeps watching, finished up, did a Q&A for another 10 minutes. As people started to leave, I turned to one of my booth buddies and said, get me some effing acetone. I've glued the wrench to my hand with the glue. It's been glued for about 20 minutes. It took an hour to get my fingers unstuck. That's fantastic.
That's awesome, Simon.
And Simon, thank you for watching. I don't think you've been on here before.
Yeah. For people that don't know, Simon Clifford is Techmark. So yeah, thanks, Simon.
And Sean,
Simon, I think. Hold on.
Hey, I got one too, but I'm still drinking my coffee.
You got it.
Thank you.
Simon, I think you were there at an open house at Wildside North when I went in, did a seminars with Easy Way at the time. And those open houses, at distributor open houses, are fun because, your competition's there, but everybody, we're all just such good friends. And it was a fun time. So I go in and do a seminar. I come out and you're talking to people, and I step in the booth and I'm talking and I'm just like pointing to stuff because I know where it is. What I don't know is some of the other guys there. Simon, you may or may not have been one of them. I know Jerry Chard with Yolano was one of them, who was the ringleader. Took all my samples off and put a different one of competitors up behind me, and I didn't notice. So they're all cracking up.
This industry is brutal.
Scott Fresner was there at the time doing it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a good follow-up story after Simon.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was in Los Angeles. I was very new. They brought a company called Coastal Printments in North Hollywood had brought me in, and the Hells Angels of Los Angeles came in and had a job that they wanted us to print. Now, Coastal Printments had printed this job in the past. Black neckerchiefs for a fun run, a fundraising run for crippled children or something like that. And I'm the hotshot guy, but nobody wanted to deal with these pretty scary looking guys. But I was there, and sure, we go over the order. And the key word here was, and remember this, children, just do it like last year. So Richard, the great master guru, just do it like last year. And so we did it just like last year, except last year was 1997 and this year is 1998. And so they come to pick it up and then they go, the year is wrong. And we go, oh. Then there's a few pirate oaths that, you've all heard them. Now we got to scramble because we'd bought every black neckerchief, scarf in Southern California and Arizona and whatever. There are no more blacks. But we called and tried and couldn't find them. So guess what? We call over and get as many gallons of spray out as we can and put two people to work with our guns, bought another gun and made a little piece of metal. We cut little washers out so we could blow out the sevens, and then by hand, one by one, lined up and printed an eight on all 2,000 units. Now, I will say that the Scary Hells Angels, they understood right away and participated. They actually helped. They went and, they took lots of little deliveries as we finished them. They made the deliveries, and it was something that actually turned into something fun even though it was crazy. What?
Wow, that's a good story. So Eric says, I remember working around one of those big ovals, and we all had for our guard was stripe tape on the floor. Those pallets whipping around the end were serious. Yes.
Those old ovals were dangerous. You got hit by one of them coming around. Get ready. At best, you had broken ribs.
Pallet. I can't find pallet. Right on. Oh my God, Richard, I love the Pablo history story. Kitson says, unverified rumor from an industry friend, Major Brain, with best NBA player doing a flying dunk at the start of the third trick. Some Zermatt press OB taped out the big pinhole, a basketball in flight on several high-speed autos, which proceeded to print all night with no basketball. Oops. Pinhole thousands and dozens of high-dollar garments without the basketball. Oops. Multiple major license holders involved. Oh my gosh.
We laugh now.
Yeah. We used to bust balls like no others. It was me.
No, I'm sure it was you, Simon. Yeah. Had no doubt
about it. Customer who wanted a 10x10 banner. Okay. We need more information, Jim.
Yeah. 10 by 10. Yeah. 10 foot by 10 foot. Okay. Yeah.
Coastal Printworks, Bob Sarley is a legend. Right? Great. So let's get to the next topic, which was kind of the same topic, I guess, but nightmare orders or clients. And so here's a nightmare client that I had. So we did a one color left chest and a one color back for a plumbing company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a plumbing company. And we got this really irate phone call. I mean, this guy was, you can't even believe the words he was using. And it was like a 400, 500, 600 piece order. I can't remember, but it wasn't like 20, right? And they had gone in with the ruler and measured every single print. And they gave us a tally of how many millimeters the prints were off. Millimeters. Yeah. And so I had to politely explain to this guy that, there's a guy loading the press. It's hand done, industry tolerance, that whole thing. And to calm this guy down because he was measuring, right? Oh my gosh. And we didn't have to reprint it, but just that level of really, I guess it's our fault for not explaining with the expectations of what you're going to receive. And I don't know, but what a nightmare that whole scenario was, right? Because he had a spreadsheet with how many were this and how many were that. And none of them were misprints, for us, right? But for him, it was a giant disaster.
That's awful.
My last guy couldn't do this either.
He said, no, go to Visual Impressions. Yeah. They'll do it for you. Yeah, here's $50. Go to Visual Impressions.
Yeah, that's where you send them to your competition.
Right.
This guy's better. Go there.
So what about you guys? Do you we don't need to name names, but orders or clients, just a nightmare scenario?
As a supplier, it's kind of both, but it's forced me to always, if you've talked to me on the phone, I will always explain ahead of time. I am going to ask 1,000 questions. They're going to seem stupid and ridiculous. And it's not to make you feel stupid, but I'm trying to get a mental picture because I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
So not to sound like the grandfather, but, before the internet, everything was by phone. And I was telling Marshall, we had some supplier orders that just seem stupid. But when people don't know and you don't ask specific questions, now they're comical on the stupidity if you know what you're doing. So little things like we have a guy calling us that there's wood in the ink when he prints. Wilflex doesn't have wood in their plant. That was the ink we were selling. And this is early in the 90s. And it took a few phone calls to realize he's a new printer and he's holding the squeegee by the rubber. and that wood is shards from the handle. So
look at Richard's face.
Okay, another one.
That's great.
And it's these smaller ones, like you sell a flash cure unit, they're $400. Guy calls, it's not working, it's not curing. Send it back. We send another one out. It's the same thing. We're checking it. Works fine. About 3 times we're on the phone with this guy, and we're finally he's curing with it. He's a small shop. Again, this is before internet, before video, where you can actually see. And he's going, tell me what you're doing. So I'm printing. Print looks good. I put it to the flash, and it's there for 5 minutes, and it's not curing. Well, it should. It's not even, it's still completely wet. After multiple conversations and shipping this different flash cures back and forth, we find out after just step by step, you take the shirt off and you put it, he goes, on the flash. And I go, right there, on the flash, setting it on top of the flash. Yeah, things that make me going, boy, I should have went to college.
When I worked at Lawson, I did take a telephone call from a guy who needed a replacement wiper blade for his coating trough.
Oh, good.
Because the black wiper blade that it comes with the coating trough, it's getting pretty worn down now. It's pretty uneven. I'm not getting a smooth coat like I used to.
Yeah. Oh.
We take the rubber thing off and throw it away.
Okay. Autotype used to have their sensitizers. Remember, they were a liquid syrup in a frosted bottle, and you couldn't see. And it wasn't my account. I work for J Products. We're in the office. I'm in the office, and the guy goes, I can't make this guy understand. He's going, Richard, don't look. Somebody's behind you.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a scary witch lady.
I didn't know if you knew that.
This is like a rear view mirror. I can see her.
Okay. So he's going, there's no sensitizer. You need to send me some. It's in there. You can't see it because that sensitizer was a liquid and it was brown amber and it matched the bottle. And he is like going on. And we have him on speakerphone on mute. And of course, I'm young and sarcastic. And I go, he's not going to believe anything we say. And if we send him a new one with the same problem, he goes, what do you think we should do? I go, play with him. Tell him what he wants to hear. Tell him don't take the top off. It's invisible ions and they'll fly out. He'll believe that. And so Joe Donovan, who passed away a few years, great guy, and he goes, how do you add water? And I go, we have to hold it upside down and put water in. Larry Rogers comes rushing out of his office. He goes, you say anything to that, you are both fired right then. On there, but I was all prepared to do it. So, because sometimes it's like that goes into don't confuse me with facts. My mind is made up.
Larry saves the day.
He did. Alan saved his job.
Cool. Ink chemistry screen printing. I just stumbled upon a triple threat thing. Please share. If there's a share button somewhere, please share. Cora says we used to have a guy for JCPenney's that was the same way.
Oh, yeah. Those box stores can be that way if you don't have that information up front.
Yeah. Jim says the 10 by 10 banner and my graphics guy sent the wrong file. What he sent was a QB invoice PDF and the company printed it. So instead of the customer getting his banner, he ended up with a giant invoice. All right. So the smart ass in me would have sent you a giant check back.
Yeah. All right. So as a supplier, I'm not going to say the company. We cut a deal with one of our vendors. We buy a truckload of product, which is huge.
Yeah.
And, if we paid it in 10 days, we got like just a humongous, price off of it. So at that time we could. And so they did. And this is, again, before internet and email. And it used to be invoices were mailed. So you always counted on that 2-3 time, to help because it was pay in 10 days upon receipt.
Right.
Get that discount. Order ships through the fax, invoice from the supplier. Larry Rogers, J Products, immediately writes the check out, faxes it right to him. And calls them and said, no. You're not going to invoice fax an invoice for the first time in your life on this one. But he goes, yeah, here it is. I just faxed the check right to him. I thought that was classic.
Yeah, great. Yosa says, I got her the same as last year. And look, last year was not your customer.
Nice.
Right. That's great. And Peter says the hardest thing to establish expectations after delivery. Far better to do the work on the front end of the order. If you can't reach agreement, it might be better to walk away.
And I think that, I think what we learned from this, there's no detail too small to ask. There's no stupid question to ask. It's how we ask them.
Yeah, sometimes a really great question to ask is, not what could go right. You were all talking about that, but what happens if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
Right. What does a problem look like, or what don't you want to see? Right. Or something along those lines, and really kind of iron that out, because maybe we spend lots of time talking about the print and everything, but really you need them on that Wednesday because they're doing kit packing or something. And
right.
You don't understand that because it never came up. And then you say, hey, we'll just ship it on Wednesday. They'll get it Friday because the event's not till Saturday. And you don't know any of this stuff. Right. So sometimes it's better to ask these kind of questions way ahead of time. And that way, more information than you would have.
Yeah. All
right, cool. So, Richard, any kind of crazy nightmare clients in your history that you don't have to name names, but you know what I mean?
Well, my other Hell's Angel story comes from Milwaukee, that same company, Eater Manufacturing. We did a contract job for them because we could do odd things. And they came to us and had us print up quite a few, I believe 30 or 40 leather jackets for the entire club. And, a month or two later, I get a call from Joe down in the front office. Richard, can you come down and talk to these guys? Because there was about 6 guys in the lobby. Again, scary looking Milwaukee Hell's Angels guys. They're unhappy with the jackets. So I come down and remember that in 1981, I weighed 130 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm 27 years old. I'm a little guy. So I come down and they show the jacket and says, hey, these are no good. Every time my girl leans up against the clubhouse, the ink starts to come off. It scratches up the jacket. And as Joe tells this story, Richard never skipped a beat. And I said, well, what happens when you lean your motorcycle tank up against the clubhouse wall? What happens?
It scratches.
And you couldn't hear a pin drop because the 8 women in the office or people talking on the phone, all of a sudden it was silent. And the guys sort of look at each other and said, I think we should order some more jackets, I guess. And we all laughed, believe it or not. We all laughed, especially the ladies, because I think one lady was reaching for the phone to see if she'd have to call 911.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But that's 2 Hell's Angel stories. Yes, I was scared when I had to go up against them, but pulled it out of the fire.
And let's just be real clear. I love that we say Hell's Angels Motorcycle Club. Okay. It is a club.
Right.
So it's
Ampersand Print Company says, hey, friends.
Hey, how you doing?
I want to respond and I
want to respond.
And what?
And where are you from?
Yeah. And
who are you?
Right. But thanks for saying, hey. Ray says, when we worked at LAT Sportswear in Ball Ground, Georgia, we printed licensed apparel for children's wear to Walmart. We got a call from the store and said they were missing 2 complete sizes, but received the right amount of boxes. I asked, so you received empty boxes? They said we must have. They didn't know that we were 5 miles away. So I walked into the store and found those missing garments and called the buyer right back as I stood by the rack. Oh, classic. That's awesome. Great. What a gigantic comment. All you can see is her eyes.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah, names make it more interesting, right? Hey, it's Dennis. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
And he's from Brooklyn.
from Brooklyn.
Thanks, Dennis.
Awesome.
Chris, do you got a scary story you want to share with us, Dennis? That'd be awesome. I bet Ron Goodwin's got one. It's not always a good day, is it, Ron?
Is it always a good day, Ron, on the horror stories?
Ron makes it a good day.
Ron makes
he makes it a good day, but I bet sooner or later there's been a bad day.
So the worst client I ever had was either HBO or Nike. We did a tremendous amount of printing for Nike, and they didn't pay. They paid, horrendously slow.
Yeah.
HBO, when we were printing for MTV, they're saying, we literally, Jeffrey Gittimer and I are in New York City. We stop by, say, hey, what about this invoice? Well, can we get terms? Hey, it's 180 day. What more terms do you want?
Yeah.
But with Nike, they accidentally sent some shirts to us, and that's 80,000 shirts. And they owed us $80,000. It was very memorable. And when they came in, I said to the guys, these shirts aren't for us. They're for guys that are also in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar, I'm going to turn my back. When I come back, I don't want to be able to find these shirts. Do you understand, Lamar? And he goes, yes, Richard, I do understand. And I come back in about 10 minutes. I go, Lamar, where are those shirts we just got? I don't know, Richard. And we look around and I can't find them. And then I said, maybe we'll be able to find them when I get the check for what you owe us.
Exactly.
Federal Express the next day. Boom. So I had to blackmail Nike to get them to pay. Now that's 35 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're much nicer now. They do their own printing.
Yeah. So I have a Nike.
Still farm out a lot too.
I have a Nike story. So back when I worked in Florida, we did a lot of hot market printing for Nike. And so it's the Super Bowl. It's the New York Giants are in the Super Bowl. And Friday we get a delivery. It's a truckload of shirts, and we're receiving them in. And everybody knows what color the New York Giants use. It's kind of a royal blue color. So we unpack skid after skid after skid of shirts, say royal blue on them. Open the box, because you always open the box. What's inside? Forest green. Friday before the Super Bowl. So there's a guy from Nike there, right? And I forget the guy's name. We'll just call him Brad. So Brad emails the owner of the company I was working for, and he goes, sorry, sometimes we don't know what the F we're doing. Right? And this is a long time ago. And what Brad didn't know was that Nike was reading his email. So Saturday, we get another shipment of shirts in, right? And I'm working on Saturday, helping get everything set up, because we were going to receive the shirts that came in, and we we're going to set up all the presses, because we had about 8 presses that we're putting the designs on, so we could just rock and roll as soon as the game's over. And, hey, where's Brad? Oh, you didn't know? Nike fired him. They were reading his email.
Oh, it's brutal.
So Big Brother's watching you.
Yeah.
So Ron says the best way to relieve stress and pressure is to fire those challenging customers.
There you go.
Yep.
There's a couple up top. There was 2 of them you must go.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Ron.
Yeah. The weather's good in Boston in spite of snow, and every job is a scary story.
Oh, ampersand. Dennis, it shouldn't be. Every job shouldn't be scary.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it's just being funny.
Call one of us. Yeah.
Right.
How can we help?
All right. So here's our next topic: the zombie problem.
Yeah.
That keeps happening. And so for us, we always talk about the same things, I think, right? So for you guys watching, what is your zombie problem that keeps happening? And let's kind of unpack that. For me, I think the zombie problem that keeps happening is really taking on work that we don't need to be doing. I was just talking with a client the other day, and so we had a call, and he was talking about he does a lot of retail stuff, but they had this contract client.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this contract client that owes them all types of money, and they keep sending orders and they keep printing them. And the big challenge for this printer is the fact that they're doing this stuff, keeping it in its fuller schedule, and now they're into overtime work for the jobs that they're actually getting paid all this more margin on because it's full retail going to stores. And the whole call was about, what should I do? And this client is 120 days on the receivable list that won't pay, but they keep taking jobs for this guy. Right? So what do you think? What do you think the answer to the question was? Yeah. You know, the definition of a customer is somebody that pays you. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Ron wants us to name names. I know Ron said earlier, name names. It's more interesting, but I'm not gonna. There is one customer, and we all know it, and they have to be the worst paying people in the industry, and it's just awful. And everybody knows they're going to be, but I won't deal with them anymore.
Right.
Just from things that happened at a previous company. It's like, it's not, yeah. So brutal. I think the zombie problem, I talked to some clients this week when we came up with the topics. And the one problem that they all said that keeps happening is numbers. You know, the wrong numbers, or not numbers, spelling errors, you know, names and spelling errors and stuff. And it is, yeah.
No spell check button on your keyboard.
Right. And, you know, they still do. You know, the company I was at yesterday said, I asked him and he goes, you know what? The first thing the horror problem comes up is a spelling one. And it was for a client that was literally two doors down from them, and they were having to reprint them the day of because it was going to be a TV spot that was interviewing them, or it was some gym company or whatever. And it's over and over. It is still spelling. It's still numbers of taking the time to make sure, and we get rushing. And yeah, so
right.
The good part of that is that those people with experience, they begin to question instead of just blindly going ahead because they don't have they can't recognize potential danger.
Yeah.
But when you see the word basketball, you say, is that something unique, or did somebody forget? And
or
then they go,
a movie.
Oh, yeah. I never thought about that. And now you're the gray old man with the beard. That's the genius.
It's wisdom.
Yeah,
that's experience.
And that's
I
what
didn't
it is.
get what I wanted too often.
Right.
Yeah.
Cora says, just fired a long-time problem customer. Next day, I get a new customer. Funny how that happens.
I love with all of us, we've done that, and it's always not a problem customer. It's always a long-time problem customers. We wait too long to do that.
The customer is always right until I decide they are wrong.
Perfect.
Hey, Kitchen's calling you out, Richard. He says, no 9/11 in 1981.
Okay.
No 911. They were dialing back then. They were dialing 0 for the operator. Get me the police.
Ron says, about 10 years ago, I delivered a league of basketball uniforms to the wrong home. That wrong home had a skunk in the garage, brought smelly shirts to the right home, and they passed the shirts out to 200 kids that had an interesting odor. PR nightmare. We still have that customer. We laugh about it now. That's the best story I think I've ever heard.
And you know what? It was still a good day then, wasn't it, Ron?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's great.
We've done everything we can to reduce the possibility of emulsion breakdown when printing discharge inks. And I have tried everything. The emulsion is cured correctly, but it seems like the discharge is seeping through the emulsion. I say it like that because it'll be red discharge ink, but the seep through spot is like clear discharge. Has anyone else run into that? So I'm sure the screen guys here will say, are you using the right emulsion?
Sean and I have talked about this, and Sean, I don't know what to tell you. I think there might be an exposure problem just with the unit, if I remember right. But part of it too, I came across this last week, and Richard, chime in on this, with HSAs and water-based, because now a lot of times it's such thin EOMs that they're going through. I'm just wondering, this is where I think face coating comes in, that sometimes with discharge and water-based, when the emulsion shrinks back, it kind of puddles in between the threads, leaves those little divots that you can't always see. And the discharge and or HSA gets in there and puddling, and what it's doing, it's just seeping in there, and it starts breaking down. So I think what's happening there is the actual clear part is coming through, and the pigment's almost being filtered, would be my guess. But this is where sometimes now when you're going, especially an HSA, when they're going, EOMs sometimes are 10% around there. And this is where a face coat happens, and it fills in where your RZ level, which is just the smoothness, is real low. And that happens a lot. So I don't know. Richard,
Can you try going up in mesh count maybe?
Well, that would be one alternative, but I'd rather go back to what's actually happening with Sean, and that is I would certainly like to do a better autopsy, and I always called it an autopsy. When we had a bad problem on the press, everybody got to gather around, including the artists sometimes, and we had to figure out what went wrong with this job, and that meant going back to the light illuminating table that we had for inspecting screens and using a microscope or a linen loop to see whether or not, for instance, the stencil could be cracking. The fact that it's bleeding clear. Now, think about this. Yes, a water-based ink is an ink, but it's not really an ink. It's an emulsion. Now, that's going to confuse people, but it is solids blended in with a liquid. And a lot of the clear liquid is the discharge agent, but it still could just be water that's leaking through. That to me tells me that it's some sort of a filtration idea. And I wonder whether or not you've got hairline little cracks. And you may find that when you flex the screen, all of a sudden little tiny cracks, like on a dried out riverbed, will pop up. They'll look like fingerprints, but only when you stretch the mesh, because you're printing off contact, I hope, Sean. And so it'll flex, crack, and just a little will seep out.
Oh, very good. Interesting.
Could that be related to like maybe really low humidity somehow?
The humidity when the screen is exposed is supposed to be dry. That's where you get the best chemical fusion. Now you have stencils, but the fact that you're printing in a very humid condition, you're covering the entire screen, the entire stencil, with water-based ink. So there's water there all the time. So as far as the stencils, imagining it's like walking through the rain. It's completely covered with water the whole time. So it needs to be water resistant.
Yep.
Now, a lot of times there are some stencils that are brittle. And for instance, there are many companies that have winter formulas and summer formulas. And if you use them out of season, you have a problem. I have another alarm.
Or an ice cream truck in the driveway, one of the two.
If it's a different podcast, it's a different webinar. It comes up in 10 minutes.
It's not as cool as ours.
So
Right.
the flexing, Sean, check to see what happens if it flexes, and it may take a microscope to see what you're doing here, but it's brittle. And I've never had a brittle screen that I've actually had, but it's been something that's been brought up in the work that I've done with Virus Ink and just the work I did because I was a Giuliano for so many years. That yes, especially winter climates. Now, Sean's down in Atlanta, right?
Georgia.
Alpharetta, yep.
Yeah, Atlanta, usually it's in Georgia, but so it's not going to be wintry weather like it is in Canada, for instance.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the bad screen. That a better analysis will come up with an answer, and you can do that by taking your phone and literally putting it on a roll of tape, 1-inch or 2-inch tape, and you'll be amazed at the fabulous 8 power, 10 power. You got a new modern phone that goes 10 or 20 power. I forget what's the new phone. Somebody had an LG phone, I think, that went 20 power, and it was absolutely sharp as can be. It was fabulous.
And just so everybody knows, Richard mentioned a linen loop. If you don't know what it is, this is it. Just a loop.
Oh, good.
Yep. So reached into my briefcase, keep one there all the time with me.
Mine's in my knapsack.
Yep. Still get
I
them.
have no clue where mine is. It's probably my travel bag, but I haven't traveled in forever.
But the phone with the tape, way better because this is only a one.
I like that idea with the phone. I'm gonna have to try that.
Great. And the little loop, this is one I ordered because it's metal, so I get them from Caprock.
And hey, Richard, by the way, you know the color spectrometer that Mark Coudray was talking about yesterday? I ordered one.
Color Measure.
Yep.
Did you get it in Amazon or did you go to Color Measure?
I went to Color Measure and ordered it there. And I don't know when it's going to be here, but hopefully I'll have a chance to use it.
I put it in an empty plastic 35 millimeter film canister, something that you kids have probably never seen before.
Yeah, a medicine vial might work too.
There you go.
Yeah. So where are we with our comments? So Sean says, so add a face coat after it dried? Question.
Well, that could be a solution, but I think Richard hit it. You got to do the autopsy on it and figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah. Brian says hello.
Brian, how are you doing?
We insist the customer provide email file when names are part of the order. Oh, man, names. Don't get me crazy. How many ways can you spell Alan?
Right? 3.
According to my mother, 1. A-L-A-N.
You don't retype any names ever. It's copy and paste. Standard procedure.
Absolutely.
What you got, Richard? Oh, the phone with the thing. Yeah, great.
So you can't see it. So, I'm looking at the wrong side. So that's kind of hard to see, but I've got.
Look out.
I've got Samsung phones, and I can say shoot. And what I like about this is that it's very stable. Everybody's got 2-inch roll of tapes. You put it on 10 power or 8 power, and then I can just say shoot or capture, and it'll take a picture. So you're not touching the phone as you move it.
Oh, awesome.
Great. Where are we with the comments here? Okay, so great information, Richard. Thank you. I'll try the phone thing as well as the loop.
The phone will get you a better image.
Jesse Martinez in the house. What's up, Jesse?
In the house from Matsui.
Hey, we need to get together soon. You know, you should let Jesse know you're going to be in town in November.
We might have to have him on a podcast. What do you think?
Yeah. So Jesse, I'm going to be calling you later today, and we can chat. Simon says I have a few stinky 35 millimeter canisters. I bet you do. Rich,
sure.
Maybe buy a color measure at SGIA. Best thing I got out of that show.
Awesome.
Right. So what time? Oh, we're almost out of time. And I had one thing left to talk about. Trick or treat. Our idea for this is you guys share something, and then the panel here will decide if that is a trick or a treat. So this is all about engagement. So you share a problem or a thing, or I don't know what I was thinking when I thought of this, but you guys share stuff, and then we'll decide if it's a trick or a treat. So go. So start typing in something.
I will. Hold on. I'll say one to make Richard go insane. I need to hold better dots, so I'm going to underexpose my emulsion.
That's great. Oh, man.
Don't do that.
And I want to print water-based ink.
Yeah. And I have a fluorescent tube exposure unit.
So David Eggers says, with iPhones, there's a remote on the Apple Watch to take pictures without touching the phone also.
Cool. Very good. A $300 trigger.
Yeah, right. Jesse says, sounds good. Okay, great. All right. So do you guys have a phrase or something we could do trick or treat on while we're waiting?
Sean just posted something.
Okay. Easy to print white in the winter. Trick or treat.
Wintertime in Georgia. Rich and I are in Michigan. I don't even comprehend this.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's going to be the trick unless you stir the ink.
With any white. Yeah, you got to stir it. It's easy to print if you do the stuff up ahead of time. Plastic has to be stirred.
Paddle bit Get a $6 paddle bit, sir.
Yep. Our friend Greg
with a cordless electric drill.
Our friend Greg Hitson, I have a picture in one of my seminars I do. He keeps his poly ink in a cabinet in where his screen room is, constant, 80 degrees on a seedling mat. Seedling mats, by the way, are used for growing tomatoes. We all know that.
Now, I built a little dollhouse out of cardboard boxes and had a 100-watt incandescent bulb in it, and that's where we stored the ink overnight.
Yep. Richard,
until the boss thought and considered it to be a fire hazard, and then we just built a heating cabinet that the ink, because otherwise, we let the shop go down to 55 degrees overnight, and you're right, 55-degree white ink does not print.
It doesn't print at all.
80-degree white ink is what it's designed to work at. All the ink companies do their testing at 80 degrees.
Richard, you also gave the tip before, and I've stolen that, of the crock pots. Put water in them, set it to 80 degrees, put a gallon in there, keep it in there.
Exactly.
Genius.
Can you set a crock pot at 80 degrees?
No, but you can set it at a low temperature.
Right. Okay. Cool. Ron says, no Halloween. I've been wearing a mask and eating candy for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a treat, Ron. David says, don't waste money on manufactured ink mixer. Use a KitchenAid. Does a great job.
If you have a KitchenAid.
Right. Now, I'm shopping the what do you call it? The flea markets and that sort of for gear like that all the time. If you happen to go into the Salvation Army or something like that to look for kitchen gear like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too, Dave. If they're doing 5-gallon buckets, some shops immediately, first thing they do in the morning, flip on the light, turn on the dryer, put the white ink right onto the turnabout.
On the turnabout, okay.
On a turnabout. And it's just slowly going and it keeps it there. I've seen them with white athletic golds too.
Yeah, so, right. Yeah.
I think you're going to find that building a house to keep the ink warm is going to be less expensive than all that mixing equipment.
Yeah. So Simon says, I was called into a Fruit of the Loom plant in LA as they had a major problem with pen marks on clothing. They couldn't clean the ink out. I couldn't get it out either. I asked the supervisor for his pen, took it and put a line on a shirt, then cleaned it fine with a spot gun. I said, collect all the pens in the plant, largest textile plant in the U.S., and change the same brand as yours. You'll thank you, and I'll send you a bill.
Perfect. Awesome. Did they pay that, Simon?
Sent pizza down conveyor dryer for lunch. Just remember to wrap in foil. I always thought that was gross.
People do it all the time.
I could never do that. I know people do it all the time, but
I had employees that would put Tupperware, at 11:30, they put their Tupperware all on the top of the oven just to get, to warm it up, because in contact with the metal, it's warm.
Right. Yep. It's only $100 in garage sales and such for that mixer.
Exactly. Buy every one you see.
Yeah, always keep an extra battery ready for your cordless drill.
Be careful here's a little caveat. Be careful. Richard, is that you?
Yeah.
Next time we have Richard on, he turns his phone off. So on using a cordless drill for mixing ink, I'm all about it. That's fine. But you have to remember to be careful, because you hit the sides of that white bucket with white ink, you're never going to know if plastic's in there. So be careful.
Yeah. Jesse says, one hit white.
No such thing.
That's a trick.
Yep, that's a trick. If you get it, you say a thank you prayer to the screen print gods and keep doing it again. But it's a trick. There's no such thing.
Here, I think this is a treat if and only if you accept what the results are. So how bright do you want the white to be? Right? So you can print a one-hit white, okay? Is it going to be the most brilliant white you've ever seen? No. What is the expectation?
Good point. How about this? Is it an underbase? Everybody thinks on an underbase you have to have it solid white.
No.
Talking not there, and most people don't know it. You just have to fool the color of the shirt.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, print a black base.
Print a black base?
Yeah. if you're using an opaque white ink, it doesn't know whether or not you're printing on a white or a green or a gray or a blue.
Okay.
I once did a job for the Smithsonian Institute, and it was stars and Einstein and a bunch of stuff, and we couldn't ever get the screens for the base and then the highlight white to match up. And so after about the third change in the first screen, I looked out at my gazing employees, and they're all up there like little birds saying, "What do we do next, Richie?" I say, "Put black ink in the first screen." And they go, "What? You said never put black ink on a black shirt." We did it, and it was a sealer. So then I printed clear sealer underneath. I used black on that particular job, but after that, in fact, it was Joe Clark. I immediately called Joe at Wilflex and said, "Can I get a clear ink that I can use as a base? Because I want to have a sealer." And they came out with First Down Clear, and I consider that to be my personal request and Joe's invention.
That was a great product, the First Down Clear.
Yeah, and then William says I use a corded drill.
Okay.
Oh, well, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Still don't hit the sides or the bottom of the bucket. Yeah. But yeah.
All right, cool. So let's wrap up here because we're a little over. So what's the Halloween situation where you guys live?
We get trick or treat. My city has trick or treat, and we had the trunk or treat. I saw a couple of those this weekend.
We do in Davison, Michigan. We have trick or treat. It's tomorrow between 6 and 8. I don't know if I'm going to pass out. You know, Marshall, you and I were talking about it. I have not set up like how to do it safely. I'm not worried about it, but because there's kids, parents, I don't want to be the one where kids want to come up to the house and parents are going, "What's up with that? You know, why is he just handing stuff out?" So I think I'm probably not going to. I'll keep them.
Yeah. So we decided that we're not going to do it. I love Halloween. I love seeing the kids.
Yep.
Last year I kept count. We had 192 trick-or-treaters in about an hour and a half, and then we ran out of candy. So we just closed up.
Yeah.
And so this year we're just not going to risk it. And then my son Jack, he wants to watch horror movies, which is not my favorite genre, but I'm going to make him happy. And so we'll be watching the Blood and Gore Fest on Halloween. Yeah. So so that's what's up here, and I hope everybody has a safe and happy Halloween.
Yep.
And ignore the scariest thing ever that's going to happen on Tuesday.
I'll be glad when it's over, one way or
whatever way you go, right? It doesn't matter. Somebody's not going to be happy with whatever results are, and it's scary. So,
and you know what? But as Ron Goodwin will say, it'll still be a good day.
It'll be a good day. We're all alive. We're all doing.
The sun will rise, and we have to remember that. We have a couple comments there.
Let's get to them, and then we'll sign off. So, Jesse says clear bases are awesome. It can help improve hand feel.
You know, I think clear bases might be one of the most forgotten things. I know I don't recommend it as much.
In the 1980s that I'm talking about, there were no clear bases.
Right.
I mean, there were, but they were not balanced. You could only add a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Whoop. T-shirt gun filled with candy.
Yep.
That's called a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You're going to hurt someone. Go one up, Sean.
Yeah, but I was clicking on Sean's, and then we got a new one, and it went down. We bought a 4-inch PVC tube attached to the handrails on the front porch, and we'll just shove the stuff down into it to shoot. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So you worried about distance? My brother-in-law, he's got a famous house where they're always dressed up. He's putting out little bags of stuff out on a table, and he's standing 8 feet away in his scary mask costume.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, with his axe and his bottle of Jim Beam.
Jim says, "Thanks, guys. Another great show. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you, buddy. Richard is the bomb. A great guest. Yes. So, all right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week. And,
Be safe.
See you.
Bye-bye.